There's been now conflicting reports on whether FSG, Fenway Sports Group, wants to buy the Celtics or not. It came out, Sports Illustrated article Monday, that FSG was preparing a $6 billion bid to buy the Celtics. It's not the first we've heard of Fenway Sports Group having interest in buying the team, since it went up for sale right after they won the title last year. And then pretty quickly thereafter, there's a bunch of reports out of Boston, local media people saying that's not true. I'm hearing from sources that that is not true. At this point, there's got to be some fire to this smoke. Like, this is the third or fourth separate time they've been mentioned as, hey, not just they're one of the groups that can buy the Celtics, but they have an interest in buying the Celtics. It's coming from somewhere. And there's nothing you can point to from their dealings that would say, no, they don't want to buy the Celtics. Like, why not? They own the Red Sox. They own the Penguins. They own Liverpool. Like, they're clearly not tied down to one team. They're not tied down to one city. They can have two very successful operations within the same city and the globe, but I wouldn't call that a successful operation. And they can control the narrative in that town. To add a second team to that, why wouldn't they? Now, from the Celtics standpoint and a Celtics fan standpoint, it could be catastrophic. I've said this on this show before. I find no good in FSG owning the Celtics. None. The only good is for the rest of the league. The only good is for those teams in the Eastern Conference that are waiting for the Celtics to tank out. Because, and I had to explain this, I'm a huge Liverpool fan, and I'm in some Liverpool group chats of fans who don't follow a lot of other sports. And I had to explain to them, like, because they get fed up with FSG, and they're like, what's the big deal with the Red Sox, and why don't the Celtics want them? And I'm like, please, how much time you got? And what it boils down to is this. The NBA is kind of in a unique position, even with the second apron. It's the NBA and MLB that can really kind of make or break the way they build their teams around how much the owner is willing to spend. In MLB, it's pretty obvious. You don't have a salary cap. So however much the owners want to spend, that's how much you're going to put into this, right? And hockey, there's ways to circumvent the cap. Circumnavigate, I don't think it's the right word there. And football's got a hard cap. The NBA, while the cap is getting harder, it has avenues for teams to go over that cap and pay the luxury tax, just like you have in MLB. And what FSG has shown more than anything the last 5 years is that they are completely terrified by the luxury tax. They will do anything to not go above the luxury tax. It has cost the Red Sox like legitimate opportunities at going to the World Series because they don't want to spend the money. And now you'll see it with the Red Sox. They're willing to trade all that prospect capital they've built up the last 5 years. They're willing to trade that for project pitchers rather than going out and spending market value on top-end starting pitchers. They're willing to do that all day long. They're going to tell you that they're interested in pitcher A, pitcher Y, pitcher Z, but they're not actually going to put a serious offer there. I mean, how many examples do you need? I'll give you 3 from this offseason alone. Oh, we're going to be on 2 of those 3 guys. Corbin Burns, Max Fried, Blake Snell. Shit, man, they weren't even in on Nate Eovaldi. They weren't close on any of those guys. The Celtics present an opportunity to be a dynasty in the second apron era. They can still build through that because they've got all these players, locked up to, re-signed contracts. So guys that they have already had on the books, and there's still ways you can work around that with the luxury tax and the salary cap, I should say. You just have to be willing to pay the luxury tax. Wick has been willing to do that. Wick's dad probably thinks it's too much money. So now they're selling it off. The next owner has to be ready to do that, or else the Celtics could plummet as early as next year, the year after. This great team that we saw last year could be fugazi 2 years from now if they don't have the right ownership in place that is willing to spend that money. I can tell you one thing without any shadow of a doubt. Fenway Sports Group is not willing to spend that money. I feel like that guy in the hype, the U.S. military hype video, right? I'll tell you one thing for certain. Other people will be raising your sons and daughters. But in this case, I can tell you one thing for certain about Fenway Sports Group. They are not willing to pay market value for players. They're not going to do it. And with the Celtics, they've had great structure in place for decades now under Wick. I think they have a dynamite GM who's willing to make moves, who can make those tough decisions, those tough moves with the second apron and matching money and draft picks and all this stuff. I think Brad can do that. But what you need for the short and long-term future, but specifically the short-term future of this core, is you need an ownership group that is willing to hit that luxury tax and spend the money that's necessary. And I can tell you without doubt that Fenway Sports Group is not willing to do that. The proof is so much in the pudding. We have seen it with the Red Sox for years now. And it's going to be happening with the Penguins. The Penguins are letting, their stars age out gracefully. And Sidney Crosby has restructured the contract. And both the last ownership group and Fenway Sports Group has not put anything around Crosby or Malkin or Letang for the last 6 years, really. It's happening at Liverpool too. Liverpool's in a good spot right now. They could win the league title this year, but their three most important players are out of contract this summer, and they're each getting frustrated, and apparently nobody has a deal in place. Their captain, their best player, probably a top 5 player in their 130-year history, Mo Salah, their captain, Virgil van Dijk, and a local kid, a kid from Liverpool, and Trent Alexander-Arnold, who's about to enter into his prime. None of those three have a contract lined up. FSG. Oh, and 2 years ago, they had a chance to get the best English player in the world, and they're about $10 million off. Real Madrid got him, and now he's probably the best player in the world. Liverpool missed out on him. FSG. So say what you will about their public image or how they changed around the Red Sox and Liverpool and how they changed around those famous stadiums. All that stuff is great or bad. But one thing that I care about more than any of it all, any of it, is how much they're willing to spend on talent. And the answer is not enough. Not enough. So if they go and they own the Celtics, because there's got to be some fire here. This name keeps coming up. If they go and own the Celtics within the next year, there's probably not the Celtics dynasty that looks like it was being born last year. Probably not there. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Tell me how stupid I am. Tell me how correct I am. Be sure to like and subscribe. We're back here every weekday at noon Eastern time, live on YouTube, and then wherever you get your podcast. For Zach Burke, keeping us on the air, I'm Cam Stewart. We'll see you tomorrow on The Cam Show.